Okay, looks like we're live. Okay, looks like we're live. Alright, I'm just gonna put out the invites. Hold on. Alright, I see one person is watching now. If you're watching, just drop a comment in the live chat so I know that things are fine. This is another late Sunday night. Well, I guess early Monday morning stream. And I'm gonna talk about something that I mentioned the other day in the previous stream. And the other day we talked about like just lab meat, and we talked about how there seems to be a significant population of people who identify with the term vegan, but they are also okay with paying for the exploitation and abuse of non-human sentient beings for the sake of feeding other non-human sentient beings. I'm having um, some warnings from YouTube that there's, I don't know, some bitrate thing. So let me know if everything is fine on your end, and then we can start. Let me know if you can hear me, and I'm gonna move my cursor a little bit and try to write something so that I know that everything is working as required. Stream looks smooth. Thank you so much. Greetings from Japan. Oh, I mean, yoroshiku onegaishimasu. I don't know, I might have butchered that. Anyway, I don't really have much in terms of what I had been audio and video. Yes, there is a large latency between your chat messages and me receiving it, so that seems to be the case. So that's just something I have to cope with. I have no idea how to fix this. Um, I don't know. This is just like I'm just using the YouTube, like the chat. I don't know. Maybe there might be a better way to monitor this. Maybe if I run the stream on my end, um, then I might be able to see it. I don't know. Hold on. Oh, this is gonna be so jarring. Whatever. I'm not gonna bother. Um, if everything is fine, then we'll just roll with it. So as far as I'm concerned, from where I'm looking at things, YouTube is telling me that the connection is good, and people are saying that the audio and video are both clear and smooth. So there's no problem just continuing with the stream. So anyway, coming back, I didn't really have anything scripted out to say, but just for instance, like in the previous stream where we talked about certain WhatsApp groups, and these WhatsApp groups have admins, and these admins happen to be activists. Now, I have nothing personal against activist vegans or something. I was an activist myself. I would still consider myself an activist. It's just that I'm much less active in terms of activism, and I'm way more invested um, in the philosophy of veganism. Not just veganism, just generally, but I'm more academically inclined, so to speak. And activism is something that I just, I do now and then. Like if I put out like a debate video with like with a non-vegan, I consider that as activism. If I call out some non-vegan on any of these social media platforms and stuff, I consider that activism. And someone may have shared the stream. Oh, that's good. Yeah, we want more of these normie vegans to watch the stream. So appreciate whoever sends the link to the WhatsApp group that I'm talking about. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah. So if I put out content like that, then I consider that as activism. And if I produce content which, debunks or just falsifies some claims that non-vegans might make, I consider that as activism as well. Recently, I put out a reaction to the debate between urban animal activist and Aman Dugal. I had to take that stream down for some reason, but anyway, that was also something I considered activism, because we are talking about a non-vegan who is making some kind of case against veganism that they seem to think that works. But the whole point of these kinds of reaction videos would be to show that those objections to veganism don't actually work. So in that sense, I would also consider videos like that activism. So in that sense, I would consider myself an activist. However, I am, given my schedule and given my tendencies with respect to interacting with people and stuff like that, I prefer to do these kinds of activism more than going out on the street and like talking to random people, which is something I have done for many years, by the way. I turned vegan back in 2017, if I remember correctly, and pretty much as soon as I've turned vegan, until the time I started my PhD, which must be in 2022, so roughly 5 years, I have pretty regularly participated in street and like like street activism, not just street activism, but also like other kinds of activism, like doing lectures and going to colleges and like tables and stuff like that. So I have dabbled into a wide range of vegan activism, and that includes like content. Well, content creation is something I'm doing right now, and well, the you know I have done like street outreach. I've delivered lectures in schools and colleges as well. I have done chalktivism. I don't know you. I don't know if people in the chat know what chalktivism is, but it's basically just taking a chalk and scribbling vegan messages onto the walls, random walls and um, pavements and stuff like that, where people can see them, and you know that kind of stuff. And I've also done something called sticker activism, which is that you take sticky notes and you'd go into like a supermarket and you'd write messages like dairy is rape, or you'd write watch earthlings, or watch dairy is scary, or something like that on like a piece of sticky note, and you can stick that onto milk cartons and meat packages and stuff like that in the hopes that some non-vegan who is trying to purchase that particular thing picks up the package and just looks at it and gets um, gets accosted with the stickers and their messages, and it's all fun. Like you kind of feel like James Bond when you're trying to do that, because you have to do it away from the store employees, because like you might run into trouble or something like that. So it does feel a little bit like James Bond or whatever. So I have enjoyed that kind of activism as well. Again, I'm not making any claims about their effectiveness or how many people have been converted to veganism as a result of these efforts. I have no idea. And yeah, it's just something that I have done for a long time, and I know the game pretty well. So it's not like I am just an armchair kind of person who has never done any activism or has no idea how activists operate or anything like that before I make the comments that I am going to be making during the course of the stream. Let me just take a sip of water before I continue. Good morning from Talasheri. Good morning to whoever is watching from Talasheri. um, all right. um, okay, so what was I talking about? Okay, so let's just get some terms out of the way before we start talking about each of these things. So, what do I mean by debaters? Now, I have used the term debater because it fits nicely on a thumbnail, but what I am referring to mainly is the community that we call debate bros, or autistic vegans, or whatever. These are the kinds of terms you will hear used pretty commonly in the circles that I frequent. But that's the kind of the idea. So there is a subset of people that are vegans, and there is, and the thing that distinguishes these people from others would be that we are more academically inclined. So the idea that there are a bunch of people who consider themselves vegan, and there's gonna be a subset of them. I'm just repeating myself because I'm not sure what I said previously was very coherent because I was slightly distracted. But anyway, um, there is a there's a set of people who call themselves vegan, and there is a set of people which is a subset of the first set. Um, and these are the autistic kind of people, the debate bros, so to speak. And what separates the debate bros from the rest of the people who identify themselves as vegan would be the fact that they are more academically inclined, in the sense that not that they are part of like an academic profession necessarily, but what it essentially means is that we take a more rigorous approach to veganism, and not just veganism, but like just a rigorous approach in general, because the kinds of communities and the kinds of people that I am referring to don't just have these views restricted to veganism. For instance, the kinds of views that I'm talking about are sort of like an elevation in our epistemic norms, an elevation in our debate skills, and the elevation comes from understanding important concepts like formal logic. Well, formal logic is kind of like a field. There are multiple concepts that form the corpus of formal logic. Um, so stuff like formal logic, understanding research methodology, understanding a little bit of statistics, understanding a little bit of epidemiology, understanding a little bit of um, you know, just general like awareness. These are the kinds of things that I'm talking about when I distinguish the debaters from the activists. Now, there is. Do explain when you use terms like epistemic norms or any terms that a layman will. Yes, that's a fair suggestion. Um, well, I will get to it. I will like sort of. I don't want to like start a lesson in between the stream right now. So, but I will get to like these kinds of concepts as we go. But the idea is that there is obviously, so I have defined what a set of debate bros is, and the rest of the people are going to be just non-debate bro vegans, who I like to call normie vegans. Now, there's going to be a further subset of these norms. Let me draw this out, since I have a scalar draw. So let's say there's this big set, okay, and I'm just gonna make it some kind of light color. Yeah, this is fine. So this is what the fuck? What the fuck? There we go. So can I wait a second? No. Can I just make this transparent? Yeah, there we go. Okay. I'm gonna say this is a set of people who call themselves vegan. Okay? Now, there's going to be a subset. Okay? Of these people. And that's what I have called debate bros. Again, I'm using the term debate bros, but honestly, we are pretty egalitarian. So debate sisters are also, or debate sisters are also welcome, and we would like to encourage a bunch of vegan females to join the cult and become debate sisters. We will welcome you with open arms. It's just that y'all are unfortunately underrepresented in this community, so you gotta up your game. I'm just kidding, but anyway. Yes. So there is a subset that's called debate bros, and this is the set of people who call themselves vegan, and there is going to be another subset of people. I'm gonna draw this in a slightly pardon my drawing. I'm just gonna make these kind of proportional, you know. Okay. I can simply make this slightly bigger, and that'll do it. Alright, okay. It's funny that we are actually going into a little bit of set theory over here because this is the larger set of people, and there's a subset of this set which is called debate bros, which consists of people that I've already described, and there is a set of people who are activists. So let me just go back to the chat a little bit. This is very precise because debate bros have values that is opposed to the values held by many or right. Okay. All right. So there's a subset of people who are activists, and I have drawn this as an intersection because, like myself, there are people who are debate bros, and they also engage themselves with some form of activism, which is why there is an intersection of people who are debate bros and people who are activists. However, I am mostly talking about this group of people. Sorry. This group of people. Which is people who exist in activists, but they don't exist in debate bros. That's the kind of people that I'm talking about, generally speaking. So these are people who you would find at an activism event, or you would find a bunch of these YouTube content creators who are activists, but they are not debate bros. And that's generally the kind of people that I am talking about when I use the term activists. So when I say the term debaters, I mean this entire thing, this entire thing, which is debate bros and debate bros who are activists. And when I say activists, I'm talking about only these people who are not debate bros. I am not talking about this intersection. Okay, so that's That's kind of how I'm defining these terms. By the way, these are just some set theoretic notations. This means person exists in A, and A is the set of activists. This is a symbol for and. So, and the person does not exist. So this is an exist symbol, and I have crossed it out. So it does not exist in the set of debate bros. That's kind of wait, someone is saying the complete modern physics, including quantum physics, in one shot 10-minute lecture. um, Y'all having some fun on the chat. Anyway, so that's the kind of people that I'm talking about when I mean activists. And let me kind of highlight the problem, okay? Now, the thing is, the people in this set, the debate bros, are people who have spent a considerable amount of time trying to understand various concepts, okay? Now, these concepts can be stuff like, as I mentioned, right? So these are like logic, and there's research methodology, and some basic biology, some epistemology. Okay, so these are the kinds of people who have spent a considerable amount of time, and I would say the epistemology thing and the research methods thing are sort of related to each other. And the research methods and the basic bio are kind of related to each other, but it doesn't really matter, because I'm just making a point that people that we call debate bros have spent a non-trivial amount of time studying at least some of these topics. So, and so I'm not saying I want to say like philosophy, but just generally logic, epistemology, these kinds of things fall within the purview of philosophy, which is why I'm not mentioning philosophy separately, because this is all philosophy. But I'll just list out just basic ethics, right? Just philosophy has a few domains, right? Like logic is one. Then there's epistemology. Then there's metaphysics, logic. So metaphysics, epistemology, logic, ethics, and you can add aesthetics and politics into the scope of philosophy. But we have spent a considerable amount of time kind of understanding a little bit, not too much, I mean, to varying degrees. We have spent some time trying to understand a lot of these concepts. And partly because we are interested in these topics ourselves. However, the same cannot be said for the activist people. And the reason why that is important is that a lot of things that happen during activism could, for instance, let's say you go to a street outreach, and over there you are, just talking to people, and they start asking you questions, right? Now that could very quickly spill over into the territory of debates, right? And that is not the specialty of an activist, because here's what I consider activism to be, right? So when I say someone is an activist, what they have to do, what do they have to do? All they have to do is raise awareness about what happens to animals in the industry, and like convince people, right? These are the kinds of goals that an activist would have. An activist's goal would be to convey what happens to animals in animal agriculture to an unsuspecting or ignorant person who is ostensibly a non-vegan, right? And the goal, eventual goal, is to convince this person to turn vegan, right? And that is fundamentally what compromises the activist position. Because when your goal is to convince a person, you are kind of I'm not saying you have to, but a lot of people, a lot of activists try to do whatever the fuck they can to get on the same side as a non-vegan, to sort of highlight our similarities or something like that, to appeal to their emotions, to appeal to some kind of like existing bias that they already have, and convince them to be vegan. That is kind of the fundamental issue that I have with the activist position. It just seems like a disadvantaged position from a debate perspective. And there's nothing really wrong with being in a compromised position. It's just that when you're in a compromised position, it becomes even more important how you hold your position at that point, right? Because, okay, so let me just make this a little more clear, right? So this is the activist side, and there is going to be a debate bro side. What's the goal of a debate bro? The goal of a debate bro is obviously to, challenge one's beliefs. So, or like let's say, is to the goal of a debate is to get to the truth value of some proposition. So the goal of a debate bro, ideally, is to investigate the truth of a proposition. Now, what's a proposition? A proposition simply is a sentence in, for example, the English language. Doesn't have to be English language, but any kind of like verbal kind of language is a type of sentence which can take on truth values. So if a sentence can be true or the sentence can be false, then it is a propositional. Sky is blue is a proposition because sky is blue can be true. If you look outside and it's daytime and the sky is blue, then the proposition sky is blue is true. However, right now where I am, it's nighttime. The sky is not blue. So the proposition can be true or false. the sentence can be true or false. It can take on the truth value, and that's what we mean by a proposition, right? And the goal of a debate bro in any given debate is to investigate the truth value of a given proposition. Now, this can come in two ways, right? So, the debate bro can take a positive stance. They can take an agnostic stance. And they can take a negative stance. Well, I don't want to say negative stance, but like, because the negative and the positive are kind of the same thing. The idea with the term positive is that you are making the case. Now, you can make the case that some particular proposition is true, or you can make the case that a particular proposition is false. Or you can be agnostic. You can be like, well, I'm not convinced that a given proposition is true or false, and if you are the one making the claim, then you, as in the opponent, has to provide an argument or appropriate evidence to show that the proposition that they are asserting is true or false. So a debate bro can be in a situation like this, where they take the positive burden and they make the positive case, or they can be agnostic. For example, in the vegan context, if someone comes and says that it's let's say it's impossible to be healthy as a vegan, I can take one of two stances. I can take an agnostic stance. I can be like, well, you're making the claim that it's impossible to be healthy on a vegan diet. What the fuck is the evidence for that? And what's the argument? Right? Or I can take a positive stance and I can be like, well, that's not the case because we have consensus statements from nutrition and dietetics associations from around the world that appropriately planned vegan diets are health promoting and they can be appropriate for all stages of life, right? Now, appropriate planning obviously has certain caveats, like you have to take certain supplements, minimally a B12 supplement, and maybe even a D3 supplement depending on your situation. I would recommend a D3 supplement for sure, but minimally a B12 supplement. And these are the kinds of things which you can say to defend the positive case that vegan diets, it's not the case that it is impossible to be a healthy vegan, right? Now that's the kind of thing a debate bro will do. And the thing about a debate bro is that they may have the goal to convince people. However, they may not. Their goal might just be to investigate the truth of a proposition in a given debate. And people might get convinced regardless, as a consequence of the fact that a debate bro has demonstrated a particular proposition to be true or false, or they have demonstrated their opponent to be incapable of making the case for the claim that they have made. That might sway some people. So if a person is rationally minded and the person is sort of being an unbiased spectator for a debate between a vegan and a non-vegan, and they find that the non-vegan was unable to defend their position, or the vegan made a really good positive case, then the non-vegan might, reevaluate their position and be convinced as a consequence, even though that might not be the main goal of a debate bro. Now that is something that is paramount. It's of paramount importance to understand, because that fundamentally differs it creates like a fundamental difference in the approach an activist might take and an approach that a debate bro might take. And this is kind of the problem because, as I said, there is a disconnect between the activist side of the vegan movement and the debate bro side of the vegan movement. Now, let me pause there for a second. What exactly do I mean when I say that there is a disconnect between the activist side and the debate bro side? What I generally mean is that, firstly, the people who are active in activism are generally not equipped with the same kinds of tools that a debate bro is equipped with. So, generally speaking, they don't really know logic. They don't really know much of philosophy. They don't really have standards with respect to how debates happen and how debates are to be conducted. One thing I need to like sneak in to this point is that many debate bros have spent hours debating multiple people, not just non-vegans, even other vegans, for example. And we have sort of figured out a general methodology. And this is something that I have covered in a previous video of mine, which is titled "The Hypocrisy Destruction," something. I have the video. I'll put it up in the description. It's on my channel. How to destroy hypocrisy arguments, or something like that. That's the something along those lines is the title of the video. All right, and at the beginning of that video, I go over a general methodology for debate. So I'm not going to repeat myself. I would encourage you to go and watch that video. I might do. I mean, I don't intend to like cover things that I have already covered at some point in my channel before, because then it's just going to be like redundant, right? So I'm going to redirect you to that video so you can go and check out the general methodology for debating. And that is something that requires practice. And more importantly, what it requires is training the mind to kind of follow that particular methodology, because when you are in a debate, it is extremely tempting to go off script and just to engage. So, for example, if you're in a debate and there is a given proposition, say P, that is being discussed, and we are discussing the arguments in favor of P. Let me just quickly glance over the chat to see if y'all are still having fun, and if everything is all right. Okay. Okay. So, let's say you are in a debate, and you are evaluating the truth value of the proposition P, and someone says, let's say your opponent just brings up another proposition Q, which is unrelated to P, in the sense that it does not feature in an argument for P. It's just that they are making another claim. At that point, it's extreme, and like Q might be like a really enticing target. So you might be enticed into attacking Q next instead of sticking to P. Right? So apart from just knowing how the model works, you also need to train your mind to sort of stick to a given proposition. Now, I'm not saying that there are cases where that there aren't cases where it is better to just switch propositions. There are cases like that, and it just comes down to like the context. I can't really give you a general formula for when to stick to a proposition and when to just switch over and attack a different proposition. Now, this is something that comes with experience, and in most cases, you just want to stick to the initial proposition and avoid getting dragged down a rabbit hole by your opponent. So these kinds of things require training your mentality, your mental model for a debate. You have to be extremely committed to a particular proposition. Committed to the pursuit of a given proposition before you jump ship. And even if you jump ship, it has to be a conscious, calculated decision, as opposed to, just jumping over to the other proposition on a whim, right? You must have good reasons to jump over to the other proposition. And we can discuss stuff like that in future streams, but that's the general idea. So it requires you to undergo a lot of practice, and you have to train yourself by talking to a bunch of people. And I usually recommend people to just create like a fake anonymous account or something like that, regardless of whoever you are. I have given this advice to some really famous activists, like like Arvin Animal Activist and stuff like that. That all you need to do is create. I don't know. By the way, I don't know if he actually took the advice. I don't want to comment on that. But one can simply take up or create like a fake anonymous profile on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. And what you can do is just go into people's comment section and start debating them. Now, when you start getting replies, you can strategize how to respond to these replies, and then you can reach out to one of us debate bros, and then we can teach you how to approach it and like nudge you in the right direction. Maybe you want to jump to the next proposition, but we are gonna be like, no, you gotta stick to this proposition that you challenged him to first, and then once you have exhausted that that proposition and you have explored it completely, then you can choose to switch, right? So these are the kinds of things that one needs to train in order to become good at debating. But you don't really need those kinds of skills when you're trying to be an activist. In order to be an activist, there's a surprisingly low entry point. All you need to be able to do is hold a play card. I think that's the bare minimum qualification for someone to be an activist. All you need to do is know how to stand and hold a play card. You don't even have to stand. You can be on a wheelchair. We're pretty disabled friendly over here. You can be on a wheelchair, and as long as you can have a play card on your hand, you're an activist, right? Because you're doing something that might increase awareness in people who are passing by and bother to look at your poster or play card. Give me 1 second. I need to gulp some water. Okay, I'm back. So, the problem over here is that activists are the people who are reaching out to people, and many of these activists themselves are loose on their concepts. Many of these people who call themselves activists don't understand the ethics of veganism. They are confused about a bunch of topics. They can be misinformed on the empirics. For instance, I saw a video from the other day And that video has been taken down now, by the way. Um, Otherwise, I would have shown it over here on the stream, but that video was taken down, which is good. But there was an elderly activist who was making the claim that the consumption of milk is bad because milk is acidic, and when you consume animal protein, then it's acidic, and then it enters your body, and your body has to maintain like a normal physiological pH, and the body is just going to extract phosphate from your bones and neutralize the acid, which is something that I don't know who started. It might have been Gary Yourofsky. I don't know, but yeah, that's it's like bullshit, by the way, just for the record. But this is something that activists tend to say. Because they themselves are misinformed, and there is really no reason for these people to stop peddling these kinds of claims, because nobody really gives them any kind of pushback. Nobody stops them and tells them, look, and by nobody I mean other vegans. Nobody tells them, look, you gotta stop saying this. This is false, and here's why. Right? Nobody does that. And that's because the other people who are in activism are also underinformed, or they just don't care enough, which is a problem, right? One thing that is a consequence of the attitude that the debate bro has, which is to investigate the truth of a proposition, is that we are actually really committed to the truth. And, you know, it bothers us when a movement that we consider close to our hearts is built upon a mountain of lies. And, you know, naturally, because this bothers us, we try to reach out to these activists who peddle these kinds of claims. But what we get instead is that all our words fall on deaf ears. Because people don't really care. On the activist side, people don't really care about forming the right beliefs, forming about like investigating the truth value of certain propositions, about equipping themselves with the latest and accurate information, whether it be about nutrition or the environment or whatever, which are, by the way, unnecessary to make the case for veganism. But still, people are misinformed, underinformed, and that is something that they are not motivated to change. And that bothers us. So when debate bros approach the activists don't give a fuck. And that's kind of what I'm referring to as the disconnect. Right? Now, what I propose here is that there has to be a connection between the academically inclined group of the movement and the activist side of the movement. And the connection has to be that the debate bros, or, the academically inclined people, do the academic work, in the sense that we develop, which we already do, by the way, we develop the best possible cases for veganism, the best possible positions that you can take as a vegan. We develop the best possible, information. Best possible in the sense that the most accurate information. And the activist has to learn from these kinds of resources, where we have developed the views with respect to veganism, and we have developed the arguments and the empirics in support of these cluster of claims. And the activist just learns these things and then approaches a person. Now, if it comes down to debating, then they should be, and I think this is something that everyone should learn, which is to learn how to debate properly. This is, if it comes down to a debate, an activist must be capable of taking on that debate, or they should have the humility to pass on the debating to the experts, the debaters, right? So this kind of connection ensures that the activist does their job, which is just to reach as many people as they can, so they can create like inflammatory content, which will get to as many screens as possible, as many people get as many eyes on the message as possible. But when it comes down to a debate, then they have to either switch to the debate room mode or have the humility to defer them to the debate bros. So for instance, you could be an activist who goes to like a street activism event or something like that, and you start talking about like what happens. All you need to do as an activist is describe what happens to the animals in the animal agriculture industry, and then you can simply just run name the trait. For example, you can ask people what is true in case of the animal, that if true of the human, like, you know, like let's say we construct like a bunch of hypothetical worlds. World A is human, and world B, the end world is animal, and then we just ask, you know, we start like equalizing the traits, and we ask at what point in this trait equalization process is moral value lost. So you can ask these kinds of questions, obviously in a more simplified manner, and you can explain what happens to animals in agriculture industries, and you can ask them, are they okay with this if the victims were humans instead of animals, right? These are the kinds of things you can do as an activist. Now, if it comes down to a debate, you can, well, learn how to debate yourself. Ideally, that's what you're supposed to do, is to learn how to debate. But if you can't, then you can send these people over to like one of the WhatsApp groups, for example, or the Discord servers, where debate bros are likely to be found. And then we can take care of it. We can debate the non-vegan on different propositions, and get down to the truth of the matter, right? Now, I used a term called epistemic norms a little while back in the stream, and that's kind of so what I mean by that is that we have to have certain values in terms of how we form beliefs, right? Now, for instance, if I say that, well, I heard an activist say that milk is bad for your bones because it leaches calcium from your bones, and like it uses the phosphate to neutralize the acidity in milk protein or whatever. I just heard another activist say that, and I just, I started saying it from the next activism session. Well, that's terrible. Those values are extremely terrible with respect to forming a belief, because, well, they did not get you to the belief which is true, right? So you can have a belief, and that belief can be true. For example, I can have a belief right now that the sky is dark outside, and if I look outside and I see that the sky is actually dark, my belief happens to be true, right? So if I just heard another activist say something and I incorporated it into my repertoire, and then I just hit other non-vegans with it from the next time, I am exhibiting bad epistemic norms. So epistemology is the field that concerns with beliefs and knowledge and stuff like that. So here I have formed a belief and I have failed to investigate the truth value of that proposition before I incorporated it into my set of beliefs. And it happens to be the case that the belief is false, right? So my value, where I trusted another person blindly without any investigation, is bad. Now there's a case where this is not super applicable, which is when, let's say, the person that you're listening to has demonstrated an ability to accurately represent the facts, right? So let's say there is some member of the debate bro community who is like a doctor, for example, and let's say that person is extremely well read, and they are more likely than not going to represent some true proposition with respect to, say, nutrition, and you listen to them and you have a general idea that this person is going to be right on most accounts, then there is some leeway over there. However, it is always encouraged to critically examine claims, even if it comes from like a trusted source, right? So there are other things that form the set of epistemic norms, which is just how you can titrate the amount of confidence that you have in a given proposition based on the kind of reasoning or the kind of evidence that you have seen. So, for example, if there's a proposition for which there exists very bad evidence, let's say the only evidence that you can find is like some case report with like one patient, then your confidence in that proposition must be pretty low. However, if you can find like a randomized control trial or a large prospective cohort study, which are higher up on the evidence hierarchy, again, these are the things that we can talk about in like a different stream, but the idea is generally that there are kinds of evidence which are more they are better than other kinds of evidence, and your belief should be proportional to the kind of evidence that you have seen for a given claim. It's been a while since I've been talking, and I haven't looked at the chat. Okay. Yeah, there's just some bullshit about like name the trade in the chat. I'm just gonna ignore that. Anyway, so coming back. These are the kinds of things that I mean by epistemic norms, where you have values with which are likely to lead you to having true beliefs. So there are certain values which will maximize your chances of accumulating true beliefs, and there are other values that you can. Oh, let me draw that out. Hold on. Good epistemic norms. um, lead you, or let's say maximize true beliefs. Right? And bad epistemic norms okay, by the way, I should mention that these are values. They minimize true beliefs. By the way, there's another thing. A good epistemic norm can also minimize. Sorry about that. Minimize false beliefs. So it doesn't have to like maximize true beliefs, but if it can minimize your false beliefs, that is also good. And on the flip side, you have bad epistemic norms that will maximize your false belief. Right? So that's kind of what I'm talking about, and it's really hard for someone to develop a good set of epistemic norms without actually participating in debate, because when you participate in a debate, you are put into different kinds of positions, right? So you can be forced to like defend a position that you hold, or you're challenging a position that you hold, right? In order to gain success at either of those tasks, you have to do a lot of trial and error with respect to how you approach the debate. And there will be debates where, you know, you fuck up, and that's because of your terrible epistemology. You know, your epistemology gets the better of you, and then you know that the general value which led me to this kind of position is bad, right? Now, things get easier because a bunch of us have already kind of experienced a lot of this. We have done a lot of debating, and we kind of know roughly what kinds of beliefs are, what kind of values are going to be good epistemic norms, and what kind of views are going to be bad epistemic norms. So, for example, if you see a person who is talking positively about veganism, then vegans have this tendency to sort of simp for the person. And that may not be good, because that person might be just spouting bullshit. And if you simp for them without actually investigating the claims that they're making, then you have a chance of increasing your false beliefs, because that person might be bullshitting for all we know, right? So just simping for like a person who just says something positive about veganism, not a good idea. It falls in the category of bad epistemic norms. Don't listen to people simply because they are simping for veganism. And there are a lot of people like that. There are a lot of grifters in the vegan movement who will say stuff which sounds kind of positive about veganism, but if you actually look into the science, then those claims are just false. And if you believe that person, well, I hate to break it to you, you accumulated a false belief, right? So these are the kinds of things that are hard to learn if you are cut off from the academically oriented side of the movement. And this is a huge problem because a lot of vegans, including like famous, really popular vegans with huge channels and um, like big followings, are given their following, are appearing in debates with no fucking idea about how to conduct themselves in a debate. And that's a problem because it kind of puts an activist in the role of a debater without the tools required to be a good debater. And the activist in that moment just does what is natural to them, which is activism. So you will see like an activist in the role of a debater just trying to convince the other person. And that's, let me tell you, is not the best strategy, because in a debate, the goal has to be to ascertain the truth value of the proposition. If your goal is to convince the other person, you're gonna put yourself in a really bad situation. And like there are very rare cases where this actually works out, but honestly, I can't really think of any cases like that off the top of my head. I just want to make a moderate claim, which is why I'm saying that these are rare, because, even if I haven't seen them personally, there might be some case. But given that I haven't seen them, and given that I have been in the scene for quite some time, I would say the chances of that are pretty rare, let's be honest. So, yeah, yeah, because, like, in the pursuit of the truth value of a proposition, it may or may not be the case that you convince the other person. If your goal is to pursue the truth, there's a different way to do it than to convince someone. And the way to pursue truth may not be the way to convince the other person, because unlike you, that person may not be interested in the truth, right? This only works if the other person is equally invested in the truth, which is often not the case. And I don't really mean, I don't mean this only as a vegan versus carnist kind of thing. This is also the case in a vegan versus vegan context. There are plenty of contexts where I have been in debates with vegans and they have zero interest in the truth. All they want to do is stick to their old habits and perpetuate the same bullshit that they have been perpetuating with no intention to course correct. So, I'm not saying this as something that is strictly speaking only for vegans and carnists. This is also something that happens within the community, and that's unfortunate, but I gotta keep it real. Okay. Yeah, so that's kind of what I had to say with respect to the disconnect between the activist side and the vegan side. A few other things are that normie vegans don't really have good responses to common, like, non-vegan talking points. So you can have stuff like crop deaths, or you can have stuff like, I don't know, maybe even like nutrition or whatever. There are a bunch of like things that non-vegans would say, and vegans just don't know how to respond to these things that non-vegans would say, and that largely comes from confusion. They themselves lack clarity on important concepts, and because they lack clarity on these important concepts, when they do activism, the people they convert are going to inherit these misconceptions, and sometimes there's a snowball effect where the person who got converted by this person is even more confused, which is why you kind of have a situation. I mean, this is my guess that the reason why we have people in the vegan community who think that it is okay to kill chickens and um, feed them to like dogs. The reason we probably have these kinds of people in the community is because the people who converted them did not have the clarity to explain it to them. Um, so this is all sort of like a it all ties in together because the people who are doing activism themselves may lack clarity, and as a result, the kinds of things that they are propagating may be suboptimal. And best case scenario, you have someone who is quitting animal products, but for the wrong reasons. That's like the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is someone picks on that and then uses that as a reason to shit on veganism as a whole. An intermediate case would be someone, well, yeah, an intermediate case would be someone who initially quit animal products for the wrong reasons, and then when they were persuaded off of those bad reasons, they quit veganism and they're back to being a carnist, right? So, if your values are not um, aligned with the larger vegan philosophy, then there's a good chance that you are, just not doing it right. That you have like insufficient reasons for being vegan or something like that. So let's say there's someone who is persuaded that being vegan makes them like age 5 years slower or something like it makes them age slower. And they turn vegan and they find out that they're aging at roughly the same rate that as they were aging at before they went vegan. And now they no longer have that motivation to be vegan. Again, I'm using the term vegan sort of loosely. I'm using it in a normie sense, not in the rigorous sense that we debate bros like to use it. But I just mean like quitting animal products. So let's say someone quit animal products because they were convinced that this was good for their bone health. And a few days later, when they have been vegan for some time, they realize that their bone health is not all that better. And it's just how it used to be. Then they have lost the motivation to remain vegan. So they'll quit. Let's say someone convinces another person that their religion actually commands them to be vegan. This is something that you'll see a lot of. This is all part of like activist brain rot, where activists will try and convince people that their respective religion is not only compatible with veganism, but it's also, something that the religion prescribes or rewards. So, there are people. Again, these are going to be people with bad epistemic norms. That are going to believe the activist and stop eating animal products. But let's say a person of higher authority, maybe like a priest or a scholar of the religion, talks to this person and they convince them that no, not only is this religion not rewarding veganism, it's actually impermissible to be vegan. According to the religion. And if this person values their religion more than they value animals, they're going to quit. And why did that happen? Is because they started with the bad reason, right? So this is again something that activists do all the time, where they try to like find they try to like reach for any kind of possible avenue to convince a person to be vegan. And this is all something that I like to call activist brain rot. And, let's be honest. If you are someone who went vegan for the wrong reasons, you'll probably quit for the same reasons eventually. Um, so, yeah, activists have to learn how to have clarity in their own views, firstly. Secondly, they have to learn the tools of debate, ideally, from the people who are engaged um, in the debating side of veganism. And they have to learn, like, the facts or the truths that are relevant to vegan activism. Again, from the academically oriented side of the movement, prior to going out in the world and spreading these beliefs, right? So that's kind of what I mean by establishing a connection between um, the activist side and the debating or the academically oriented autistic side of the movement. And there are some hurdles to that, which is that many activists are actually arrogant. They think that, well, I've been in this whole activism business for like years now. Of course, I know way more than someone who spends most of their time um, just being a nerd, right? So why the fuck would I listen to this person? So there's a fundamental sort of lack of humility um, when it comes to the activist, which is what pisses off a lot of um, you know academically oriented people. And I don't want to make a general claim, but it certainly does piss me off because I have spent a considerable amount of time researching these topics and learning them, and it's really frustrating when someone who clearly does not know what they're talking about dismisses what is empirically established just because they have like an agenda to peddle, right? So this is something that really pisses me off, and whenever I see behaviors that correspond to this kind of lack of intellectual humility, um, that's when I get really mad. Now, and I can say that is the case for many other people who are academically oriented. And this is something that the activist side must understand. They have to understand that there are people who have spent way more time doing the theoretical work, and they know things that you don't. And for good reason, because they have spent the time. And you have to have the humility to, again, like, I'm not suggesting that, the academic side has to be listened to uncritically. You can bring all your criticisms, but they have to be, well, they have to be good criticisms, because you're going to get the same treatment that a Carnus is going to get if your criticisms are bad, which is that your criticisms are going to be made fun of, and they're probably going to be shot down pretty ruthlessly. It's just how debating is, right? So if you have good criticisms, those are obviously welcome, but in the absence, you're better off just listening to the people who have done the legwork. And there is a huge deficiency in this area, because a lot of, as I mentioned, right, like, people are not humble, and that's a problem. But if we want the movement to be founded on truth, and we want the movement to progress, I think it's important that it is constructed on a foundation of truth. So that's generally what I had to say about this topic. Now, it's pretty late, and I have been streaming for a little over an hour. So I'm not sure. Let's get some votes in the chat. Do you want me to? So someone suggested that I react to this person called Ratan Raj, who streamed about veganism or something like that. Would you like me to react to that for a little bit now, like maybe like the next half an hour, or would you like me to just shut up and go home? Just let me know in the live chat if you want me to. Actually, you know what? Like, I keep asking in the chat, but I keep doing what I go for. Thank you. Okay. I keep asking in the chat, but there's the significant delay in the chat, and like the response that I get, that I get impatient, and I'm like, well, I might as well just do whatever the fuck I want. Um, anyway, so I'm going to switch to my YouTube, and someone suggested this in the comments, so I am just going to switch to this. And yeah.
मिल गया.
Okay, this is going to be in Hindi, so I might be translating a little bit, and I'm going to watch this at a faster speed.
Hello, sir. Basically I'm non-vegetarian.
By the way, this is Arvind, animal activist. I'm sure everyone knows already. And this guy, Ratan Raj, is reacting to this video that Arvind put out.
I just want to talk for non-vegetarian who are the people sitting here.
Sure.
And if you, I'm totally opposite to you.
Okay.
If you are allow, I will talk. Otherwise, I won't.
Yeah, feel free to ask anything you want. Anything is fine, bro.
Okay, sir. Sir, it's like I'm from basically farmer family.
Okay.
Agriculture family. So I have cows in my home, and I'm grown up with them, and I know very well about the things and all. One day, what happened? One cow in my home, it was like amba. So I just asked my.
What happened to her?
Amba. Okay, it will shout, sir.
She was shouting.
Hope they let him complete, bro. Quoted reference. Why? Quoted reference.
Okay.
And I asked my grandpa, what happening? Why is he shouting?
She was shouting. Okay.
And I asked my grandpa,
You know why this guy, when he's speaking, I'm not laughing. It's not very funny to me personally because yeah, he is from a farmer.
Yeah, he's just going to.
उर्दू बोलना गलत शब्द हो जाता है. You know, at least let me check. No, there's no delay here.
I watched like 5 minutes of it just to see if this is worth reacting to, and if they just talk about like his accent or something like that, which is immaterial. So I'm just gonna skip.
But you know, I have respect for this guy.
what happened? If we are not fertilized in this period, it will get hurt. So we are taking to maybe some ox or maybe artificial insemination. He told. I'm just told this because we are not only hurting; it is necessary for that. And another thing, what is shown here, like killing animals, and some small animals and cocks are playing that. I just want to talk about that. I know to make a video.
मुझे जनरली समझ में नहीं आ रहा है क्या बोल रहा है. मैं कोशिश कर रहा हूँ, but ठीक है.
While making video, we are you used that sad background music in that killing.
Arvind seems to call himself a very good debater and whatnot. So if he is a good debater, he will explain what he's saying because steel man karega wo. So he will explain in his words what this guy meant, which he should, and he will. I have hope that he will. Let's see.
Video and happy music on the
Playing video.
Okay. If your video is not there, but background music only is there, then also we get same vibes, sir. Okay. And
Can we just go question by?
This is a funny thing that has happened to me when I was doing street activism. Like, yes, we use like videos which have like these videos have some kind of sad music in the background, And one of the times when we were doing activism, this guy was like, if you just put, even if you put a video of me kicking a rock with like sad music, then people will feel bad about it, which is just insane. Um, um, so yeah, like, is this something that people say quite commonly?
Question. The first point you made was that, if I may just ask, in your village at one point you heard a cow in pain, you asked your grandfather why, and he told because she's in heat and she needs to mate, and if she does not mate, this pain will continue for her, right? Okay. Now, how old was this cow, can I ask?
Sir, 8 to 10 years.
8 to 10 years old.
8 to 10.
Okay. So, how much longer can she live naturally before she will reach menopause? Do you have any idea? You know what menopause is, right? That's when the female stops
Yes, sir,
having any
sir,
problem.
I know.
Let us say maximum another 5 years.
Sir.
5, okay, let's just say hypothetically 5 years, which is 13. Because cows can live up to 20 years, like naturally they live when they're old, very old. So, let's say for the next 5 years, she has to go through this pain, not always, whenever those time season comes where she gets that mating necessary, right? It's not there 365 days a year, correct? They mate only during mating season, am I right? They have a particular time in the year for that, right? A few times in the year they'll come, am I right or wrong? Correct,
Yes,
okay. So let's say for the next 5 years, we allow her to go through that pain, okay? We do not let her get pregnant at all. Then she gets menopause, that stops, she
Hello. Sorry.
we do not
Bruh, I thought there was something wrong on my end.
time in the year for that, right? A few times in the year they'll come, am I right or wrong? Correct,
sir.
okay. So let's say for the next 5 years, we allow her to go through that pain, okay? We do not let her get pregnant at all. Then she gets menopause, that stops, she becomes old, and she dies naturally. That is one option. Another option is, since she's having this, we will make her get pregnant, then again she'll go through labor pain, we'll take her baby from her, we'll kill her baby, we'll milk her, again make her get pregnant. Like, if the two options are not mating and feeling some kind of uncomfortable feeling or pain, and then eventually dying out while not giving birth to any future generation, or being forced to give birth to future generation who will also be constantly tortured and tormented, which is the better option? The option where we'll force her to get pregnant and the cycle keeps continuing, or the cycle where, yes, she will suffer for the next 5-6 years, then she goes old and she dies, which is the better option here?
Sir, of course, not hurting is better option, sir.
So then, why ask the question, then don't you agree veganism solves this then?
Sir, I don't think so, sir. I don't feel so. Well, it is also growing. No.
यार मैं तुमको ना यार ये लोग ना मेरे को बड़े कॉमेडी वाले लगते हैं यार, ये वीगन वाले बताए। सो इतने सिंपली है ना, उसने वो कर दिया, व्हाट डिड ही से, कि भाई आप बोल रहे हो कि काऊ जो है उसका मीटिंग सीजन आता है, उसकी बॉडी में हीट होती है, तो आप एक आर्टिफिशियली उसको इम्प्रेगनेट कर देते हो अपने फ़ायदे के लिए, कैपिटलिस्टिक रीजन्स के लिए, बच्चा पैदा करवाते हो उससे, फिर उसका टॉर्चर होता है, फिर बच्चे का टॉर्चर होता है, फिर दोनों मर जाते हैं बार बार, ठीक है? तो ये ख़राब है कि वीगनिज्म बेटर है? तो बंदा ऑब्वियसली बोलता है कि हाँ भाई ये तो फिर ख़राब ही चीज़ है, उस व्हाटएवर। क्योंकि ये कह रहा था कि हीट में ना उसको दिक्कत होती है काऊ को, तो उसको अगर आप मीटिंग नहीं करवाओगे तो इट विल बी वेरी एजिटेटेड। तो वो कहता है कि इज़ दिस वर्स और इज़ हर फोर्सिबली बीइंग प्रेग्नेंट एंड देन यू किलिंग द काऊ एंड नॉट द बेबी एंड टॉर्चरिंग देम, दैट्स वर्स। सो ऑब्वियसली इज़ लाइक, ओ दिस सेकंड थिंग इज़ वर्स। मैं तुमसे एक सिंपल सवाल पूछता हूँ, सोच के देखना, ह्यूमन्स क्या करते हैं? खाते हैं। क्या खाते हैं? एंड बाय द वे आई एम नॉट सपोर्टिंग नॉन वेज, ठीक है, आई एम नॉट सपोर्टिंग नॉन वेज, बट मैं तुमसे एक सिंपल सवाल पूछता हूँ, बट दिमाग से सोचना, सिंपल, बहुत सिंपल लॉजिकल क्वेश्चन है। अरविंद का पॉइंट क्या है? व्हाट इज़ वर्स? किस में काऊ को ज़्यादा दिक्कत हो रही है? सही बात है, सोचे देखो, आपने काऊ पाली।
Okay, so far let me just translate what this guy is saying. He's saying that he finds vegans funny for some reason. And then it's like, oh look, Arvind just got this guy to say that, just letting the cow cry out in heat and just not get to mate, and the suffering that she would go, that she will undergo as a process, as part of that process, that is better than her getting exploited and all that. And this guy, who is the carnist in the class, has agreed to it. And this guy, who's this Ratan guy who is reacting to us, is going to make some analogy, I suppose.
सिर्फ अपने कैपिटलिस्टिक नीड्स के लिए, क्या उसका दूध बेचोगे? तो आपने उसको बांधा, उसको आप डेली खाना देते हो, ठीक है? सोचना, उसको आप डेली खाना देते हो, पानी देते हो, बारिश से बचाते हो, आग से बचाते हो, ठंडी से बचाते हो, अगर वो बीमार है तो या तो उसका इलाज करवाते हो या नहीं करवाते हो, या जो भी, आई डोंट नो, बट मोस्ट केसेस में करवाते हो, क्योंकि अगर नहीं करवाओगे तो बाकी गाय इन्फेक्ट हो जाएंगी. तो आपको बेचना उसका दूध है, बट यू ऑल्सो टेक केयर ऑफ दैट काउ, राइट. कंट्रोल एनवायरमेंट में आप कर उसको एक्सप्लॉइट रहे हो, बिल्कुल. लेकिन फॉर यू टू बी एबल टू सेल मिल्क, द काउ नीड्स टू बी हेल्दी एंड द काउ नीड्स टू बी प्रोवाइडेड विद फूड, वाटर, ऑल द बेसिक नेसेसिटीज. ठीक है. इज दिस वर्स, और द काउ हैविंग नन ऑफ दीज गारंटीज, एंड कोई शेर आके या कोई जानवर आके उसके बॉडी के चीथड़े चबा जाए और उसके बच्चे भूखे मर जाए, या कोई डिजीज़ हो जाए और वो बहुत गंदी तरह से पेन में अल्सर्स से मर जाए, या वो वाइल्ड काउ है तो वो भाग रही है और वो किसी रोड के बीच में आ जाए और एक ट्रक से कोलाइड हो जाए और उसका चीथड़ा हो जाए. विच इज़ वर्स, आई आस्क यू. इसमें ज़्यादा पेन होगा काउ को, बताओ. देखो मरना तो दोनों में. वाइल्ड भी रहेगी तो ऑब्वियसली शी विल आल्सो हैव अ फ्री लाइफ, बट शी विल डाई इवेंचुअली. लेकिन यहाँ पे तो बहुत खराब हालत होनी ही होनी है. एक तरफ एक्सप्लॉइट जरूर हो रही है, बट कंट्रोल एनवायरमेंट भी तो है. आई एम जस्ट सेइंग, आई एम नॉट क्या कहते हैं, डिफेंडिंग द मिल्क इंडस्ट्री. आई एम सेइंग कि ये जो वर्स वाला सिनेरियो ना, इट्स नॉट एज एविडेंट एज यू थिंक इट इज. कि कैदी बना गया तो
Wait a second. Okay, I was following. So what this guy is saying is that, look how Arvind got this guy to say that the dairy industry is worse than letting the cow be in heat or whatever. And then he's like, well, let me make another case. Let's say you are exploiting the cow. However, you're also providing her with like a roof over her head or whatever, and protecting her from the elements, and you are providing like food and treating her if she has any diseases. Is that is that better or is that worse than a case where like a cow is just roaming around and gets killed by like a predator or gets run over by a truck or something like that? And then he's like, oh, which one is worse? And then like, why didn't you tell me if why don't you tell me which one is worse? And I'm not defending the dairy industry, by the way. And he's like, the thing that you're saying is worse is not as evident as you think it is. Well, I don't see how. Okay, so there's scenario A, and scenario B, and scenario C. Now, scenario A is better than scenario B, and scenario B is better than scenario C. Right? So, well, firstly, it's not even clear that scenario. Yeah, I mean, let's just say there's scenario A, B, and C, and A is better than B, and B is better than C, right? So, just because scenario A exists, it doesn't mean that scenario B is not better than scenario C. Just because there's another situation which is even better than scenario B. So I don't know what he's saying. Like, just because there's a situation which is worse, which is that like a cow getting ripped open by a predator, or like getting infections or something like that, like those can be worse. Okay, like, how does that make the worst? How does that make the first evaluation not so evident? I have no idea what he's saying.
ये तो बहुत खराब बात है. Nature, real nature is even worse. Worst thing should not be a measure in rationality here.
Worst thing should not be a measure in rationality. I don't know what the fuck that means. Obviously, you will prefer the option which is the least bad or the best option. So yeah, I don't know what he's saying.
Veganism को ना आप पेन से मत जोड़ा करो. नेचर का जो पेन है ना वो इनसफरेबल है. ह्यूमन जिस तरीके से पेन देते हैं ना, हम एक झटके में देते हैं. ठीक है. ह्यूमन वेज ऑफ एग्जीक्यूशन आर वे बेटर देन नेचुरल वेज ऑफ डेथ. यूनिवर्सली अप्लाई होती है ये बात, बिकॉज ह्यूमंस प्रेफर एफिशिएंसी. नेचर में जो डेथ्स होती हैं दे आर फार मोर पेनफुल. आपको कितने ऐसे पता नहीं दुनिया भर में.
I agree with him. I mean, yeah, like nature is worse than what like, well, on an individual level, like a natural death is probably worse than a human death, but on the net we don't know because humans like kill so many animals that and they even like create situations where other animals like if humans are going to um farm fish, for example, there are going to be fish that attack other fish um in that farming setup. So humans are also creating like sort of semi-natural environments where there's animal on animal harm. So I'm not really sure if um, there's more suffering in nature or do humans perpetuate more suffering and more rights violations. Um, I think both are bad and both need to go. And I don't know what this guy's point is.
आपको वीडियोस मिल जाएंगे जहाँ पे एक काऊ गाय है, वो जिंदा है और वो जिंदा होते होते उसके बदन पे इतने कीड़े लगे पड़े हैं जो उसको जिंदा खा रहे हैं, या कोई चिड़िया उसके ऊपर बैठ के उसका मांस खा रही है एंड वो मूव भी नहीं कर सकती बिकॉज़ शी इज जस्ट सो क्या कहते हैं इल और सिक, शी इज नॉट इवन मूविंग, और चील और ये सब लोग आके उसका मांस खा रहे हैं एंड ही अलाइव, द काऊ इज अलाइव. Not just cow, happens with every animal. Animal factors are more painful, not necessarily. See, some of them are for sure more painful. True. Some of them are true. ऐसे तो क्योंकि वहाँ पे इंसान जानबूझ के टॉर्चर करते हैं एनिमल्स को, ठीक है. Some of them are इसलिए पेनफुल क्योंकि इंसान जानबूझ के टॉर्चर कर रहे हैं, ये इंसान कमीना है. वरना अगर आप सिर्फ एक्सप्लॉयटेशन पर जाओ, जो कैपिटलिस्टिक स्ट्रक्चर करता है कि किसी जानवर को बांध लिया और उससे काम करवा रहे हैं अपने पैसे के और मुनाफे के लिए, विच इज द कैपिटलिस्टिक स्ट्रक्चर. गाय को बांध लिया, दूध निकलवा रहे हैं, काम करवा रहे हैं तुम अपने मुनाफे के लिए. तुम अगर ध्यान से सोचो ना, वो तुम्हारे साथ भी होता है. जो तुम जॉब करते हो ना क्यूबिकल में बैठ के बीपीओ की, वो भी सेम चीज़ है. तुम ही गाय हो, सेम टू सेम चीज़ हो रही है. मैं आपको बता दूं कैपिटलिस्टिक स्ट्रक्चर में ना एक बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ होती है कि अगर आपको मुनाफा चाहिए तो आपको अपने लेबर्स की मदद करनी होती है, उनको अच्छे से रखना होता है, उनको आपको थोड़ा बहुत एक्साइट वो देना पड़ता है, लाइक उनको बेसिक क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ अश्योर करनी पड़ती है, तब जाके वो काम करेंगे, वरना काम ही नहीं करेंगे. अब गाय को तुमने इतना टॉर्चर कर दिया डे वन में, तो वो डे वन टू में जिंदा ही नहीं बचेगी, तो दूध क्या देगी. तो अगर तुम्हें काम निकलवाना है अपने लेबर से, उसको एक्सप्लॉइट करना है, तो एक्सप्लॉइट करने में भी यू विल हैव टू टेक केयर ऑफ देम. एंड फॉर ह्यूमंस अलग सीन है एंड फॉर एनिमल्स अलग सीन है. क्यों? क्योंकि एनिमल्स स्टेट ऑफ नेचर में रहते हैं, एंड स्टेट ऑफ नेचर में जब आप रहते हो तो इट्स एक्चुअली फार वर्स देन रियल लाइफ. नाउ तो एक्चुअल क्वेश्चन हियर शुड बी द फ्रीडम the cow has versus the captivity, not pain. Pain is a very, which situation is worse?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, he seems to be sort of assuming that Arvind's position is that we should just like liberate all animals. I'm not sure if that's his position. And like all animals go back to nature and like they get eaten by predators or whatever. Like he's assuming some kind of position like that, which I don't think is a charitable thing to assume of someone. When you can, like, I mean, it's hard for him to like approach Arvind, I guess, but he can like watch other videos of him and like try to extract like a position instead of just assuming that this is what Arvind thinks. So, yeah, like I mean, he seems to be like misrepresenting the position.
It's a very, very, very bad.
Like for example, like I'm vegan, and I don't think we should like go back to monkey or whatever with respect to like animal liberation. I think there has to be like a caretaker role that vegans have to assume prior to going back to like, yeah, I mean, we just have to like take care of animals until we have like manageable numbers of them. I'm just gonna look at the chat once again. Oh, there's like a full-fledged debate in the chat. Anyway,
कंपैरिजन, अगर आपको लगता है कि एक बैड कंपैरिजन क्यों है, तो सिर्फ इतना सोच लो कि ह्यूमंस यूज्ड टू लिव इन स्टेट ऑफ नेचर, नाउ वी हैव पॉलिटिकल स्टेट्स, ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस, इंस्टीट्यूशंस. ऐसा क्यों है? बिकॉज ह्यूमंस रियलाइज स्टेट ऑफ नेचर वाज द मोस्ट ब्रूटल स्टेट आउट देयर. सिंपल. हमने सोशल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट क्यों करा? क्योंकि हम स्टेट ऑफ नेचर में थे और हमें रियलाइज हो गया कि भाई कोई भी किसी को कभी भी मार सकता है जान से. चौकीदार आ गया, हाँ वो अच्छी बात है भाई, सीटी बजा रहा है, दैट्स गुड, बट या तो हम तो ह्यूमंस, हमारे पास ये ताकत है, कॉन्शियसनेस है, दिमाग है, तो हम तो स्टेट ऑफ नेचर को छोड़ के हमने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर लिया, सोशल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट. हम तो देश बना लिया, हमने शहर बना लिया, हमने पुलिस बना लिया, हमने गवर्नमेंट बना लिया. जानवर तो नहीं कर सकते, जानवर के पास ऑप्शन ही नहीं है. तो आप एक तरीके से ये कह सकते हो कि कुछ ह्यूमंस जानवर को एक्सप्लॉइट जरूर कर रहे हैं, बट वो स्टेट का पार्ट बना रहे हैं जहाँ पर सिक्योरिटी मिल रही है. समझ रहे हो? तबेले में जो गाय है वो एक दूसरे का मर्डर नहीं करेंगी कभी, क्योंकि तबेले में कंट्रोल एनवायरमेंट है. समझ में कह रहा हूँ? सो इट्स लाइक for sure you might be, some of them might be torturing them, exploiting them, all of them are exploiting them, but some are torturing them. At the same time, some, most I would say, are taking care of them too. You know, for their own benefit, not out of goodwill, but they're taking care of them. About death, so the question primarily is about कि भाई ये कैद रखना और exploit करना सही है कि नहीं. We have the freedom to quit our jobs or switch to another less exploitative employer. Cows don't get the freedom. That's not true. कि मेरा भाई, अगर आप आज अपनी जॉब छोड़ दो और खुदा ना खास्ता आप जिस घर में रहते हो उसमें आपको कोई होम लोन है या कुछ है, तो आपको जेल में डाल देंगे, आपकी फ्रीडम चली गई, मतलब आपकी फ्रीडम आप ओन नहीं करते. ठीक है, आपकी फ्रीडम आप ओन नहीं करते. वरना तो क्या होता कि आपके पास ऑप्शन होता कि भाई जब तक मैं जॉब नौकरी कर रहा था मैंने होम लोन लिया हुआ था, अब मेरा दुनिया से संन्यास लेने का मतलब मन है, तो मैं नौकरी भी छोड़ रहा हूँ, मैं घर भी छोड़ रहा हूँ, मुझे माफ करो. लेकिन आप कर नहीं सकते, बन चुके हो. आप घर में भी नहीं रह, मुझे घर भी नहीं चाहिए, लेकिन आप जब तक वो लोन नहीं दोगे गवर्नमेंट आपको जेल में डाल देगी. समझ रहे हो? तो आप कैदी ही हो, फ्रीडम आपकी भी छीनेगी. डिपेंड करता है क्या खरीद सकते हैं अपनी फ्रीडम, और बहुत कम लोग खरीद पाए अपनी फ्रीडम. फ्रीडम ह्यूमंस क्योंकि थोड़ा हायर कॉन्शियसनेस के बींग्स हैं, तो आपको तो बांध नहीं सकते रस्सी से. आपके अलग अलग चीज़ें डिजाइन है जो आपकी फ्रीडम इनकैप्सुलेट करती है. ठीक है, जो आपकी फ्रीडम पे रिस्ट्रिक्शंस लाती हैं. तो ये मैं ऑब्वियसली ना मैं क्या कहते हैं सपोर्ट करता हूँ एनिमल्स का टॉर्चर या कुछ, बट मैं ये बता रहा हूँ कि अच्छे आर्गुमेंट्स.
He keeps saying that I don't support the torture of animals, but I'm pretty sure this guy's not vegan, so he pays for it literally. So it's kind of bullshit.
कैसे दिखते हैं, यू नो. तुमने पता नहीं ज़िंदगी में कितने वो देखे होंगे वीगन वर्सेस नॉन वेज. मुझे एक बंदा बता दो जिसने आज तक ये सुना है, क्योंकि मैंने कभी नहीं सुना, यू नो. और ये मैं खुद बनाया हूँ, एंड मैं शायद ये गारंटी दे सकता हूँ कि पूरे यूट्यूब पे आपको आर्गुमेंट नहीं मिलेगा, चाहे आप वेस्टर्न
He thinks that, yeah, he thinks he has some kind of argument over here that I don't know what the argument is supposed to be.
और ये मैं क्या कहते हैं सपोर्ट करता हूँ एनिमल्स का टॉर्चर या कुछ, बट मैं ये बता रहा हूँ मैं कहता हूँ घर में भी नहीं रहा, मुझे घर भी नहीं चाहिए, लेकिन आप जब तक वो लोन नहीं दोगे नौकरी खुद जेल में डालेंगे. बट सम मोस्ट आई वुड से आर टेकिंग केयर ऑफ देम टू, यू नो, फॉर देयर ओन बेनिफिट, नॉट आउट ऑफ गुडविल, बट दे आर टेकिंग केयर ऑफ देम. अबाउट डेथ, सो द क्वेश्चन प्राइमरीली इज अबाउट कि भाई ये कैद रखना और एक्सप्लॉइट करना सही है कि नहीं. वी हैव द फ्रीडम टू क्विट आवर जॉब्स और स्विच टू अनदर लेस एक्सप्लॉइटेटिव एम्प्लॉयर. इज द की तबीले में कंट्रोल एनवायरनमेंट है. समझ में आ रहा हूँ. सो इट्स लाइक फॉर श्योर यू माइट बी, सम ऑफ देम माइट बी टॉर्चरिंग देम.
I guess it's something like, yeah, I'm not saying this is like valid or anything like that, but like I think what he's trying to say something like, we have formed societies so that we can escape the quote unquote state of nature and keep ourselves safe, and we have given animals an opportunity to be part of the states that we have created in exchange for exploiting them or something like that. Now that's, yeah, I don't know, because it's not like we are recruiting animals from the wild and then letting them be part of our state in exchange for exploitation or something like that, in exchange for their the products that we get out of them. Because like I think the vast majority of animals that we exploit are bred for the purpose of extracting resources from them. So I don't know what the argument is supposed to be.
Exploiting them, all of them are exploiting them, but some are torturing them. At the same time, some, most I would say, are taking care of them too, you know, for their own benefit, not out of goodwill, but they're taking care of them. About death, so the question,
Yeah, so what's supposed to be the point? Yeah, like some animals are quote unquote taken care of until they get their throats slit, and the vast majority of them are not animals that have been recruited from the wild. They are bred for the purpose of obtaining these products. So I don't know what the argument is supposed to be.
primarily is about कि भाई
And then he's flexing about, like, he came up with this like genius argument, which is something that I've heard many times before. And like he's like, oh, you won't ever find it on another vegan versus non-vegan debate or something like that. He came up with the argument, and it's like some, I don't know.
रखना और एक्सप्लॉइट करना सही है कि नहीं, कुछ छोड़ दो. और खुदा ना खास्ता आप जिस घर में रहती फ्रीडम नहीं है कुछ क्योंकि थोड़ा हायर कॉन्शियस जो सपोर्ट करता हूँ एनिमल्स का टॉर्चर या कुछ, बट मैं ये बता रहा हूँ कि अच्छे आर्गुमेंट्स कैसे दिखते हैं, यू नो. तुमने
And he thinks this is a good argument. Okay, buddy.
पता नहीं ज़िंदगी में कितने वो देखे होंगे वीगन वर्सेस नॉन वेज. मुझे एक बंदा बता दो जिसने आज तक ये सुना है, क्योंकि मैंने कभी नहीं सुना, यू नो. और ये मैं खुद बनाया हूँ, एंड मैं शायद ये गारंटी दे सकता हूँ कि पूरे यूट्यूब पे आपको आर्गुमेंट मिलेगा, चाहे आप वेस्टर्न देख लो, चाहे आप ईस्टर्न देख लो, आप कुछ भी देख लो, नहीं मिलेगा, क्योंकि दिस इज माई कंस्ट्रक्ट. मतलब ऐसा ये नहीं करा कि दुनिया में किसी ने सोचा नहीं होगा, सोचा तो होगा बट मिलेगा नहीं आर्ग्यूमेंट, तो मैं कहीं से देख के नहीं बताता तुमको, बट या दिस इज द पॉइंट दो, दैट इज द पॉइंट, वी कैन वर्क हार्ड टू गेट अ पॉइंट वेयर यू कैन बी प्रिविलेज्ड टू क्विट योर जॉब और टेक लॉन्ग ब्रेक्स फ्रॉम वर्क। ना दैट वो भी वहम है नकली मेरा भाई, वो भी वहम है, वो भी वहम है। आई टेल यू हाउ, अगर आप एक कैपिटलिस्टिक स्ट्रक्चर में एक ऐसे पॉइंट पे आ जाते हो जहाँ पे आपके पास बहुत सारा प्रिविलेज है कि आप अपनी जॉब छोड़ सकते हो और आपने लॉन्ग ब्रेक ले लिया फ्रॉम वर्क, आप वो पॉइंट पे आ ही नहीं सकते विदाउट बीइंग अ प्रिजनर, क्योंकि वो पॉइंट अर्न करने के लिए, जो आपको प्रिविलेज है वो अर्न करने के लिए आपको एटलीस्ट 20 साल तो कैदी बनना ही पड़ेगा ना। फ्रीडम तो गई। फ्रीडम क्या होती है? फ्रीडम होती है कि भाई ज़रूरत ही नहीं है बंधने की, बट आप कह रहे हो कि एक पॉइंट के बाद तुम वहाँ से निकल सकते हो, बट फ्रीडम नहीं है ना फिर वो तो एक कॉन्सिक्वेंस है जो इवेंचुअली आप अचीव कर सकते हो या नहीं कर सकते हो, या तो आप कर सकते हो या तो नहीं कर सकते हो। फ्रीडम पता क्या होती है? अगर आप लेट्स से 20 साल की उम्र में नौकरी करना चालू करते हो, 40 तक आप नौकरी करते हो और फिर आप ये कमाल वो एक प्रिविलेज कमा लेते हो जहाँ पे आपको वापस 20 साल मिल जाए और आपको ये 20 साल नौकरी ना करनी पड़े, आप वापस 20 के हो गए हो और अपनी जिंदगी जियो, तो नेगेट हो जाए, नेगेट कभी नहीं होता कुछ। जब तक आप ये प्रिविलेज अर्न करते हो ना, आपके पास ये आपकी बॉडी आपकी जिंदगी उस लाइक नहीं होती कि आप कुछ और करो लाइफ में, आप बस बिस्तर में पड़े होते हो, यू नो। सो व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से इज कि जो मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट जो टाइम था वो तो आपने फिर भी कैदी होकर बताया ना जिंदगी का, बट वी आर हैप्पी बट एनिमल्स आर नॉट, कैंट यू सी? मोस्ट ऑफ अस आर नॉट हैप्पी इन दैट सेंस एंड एनिमल्स आर ऑल्सो नॉट हैप्पी अगर वो टॉर्चर हो रहे हैं तो, बट अ लॉट ऑफ एनिमल्स इफ दे आर टेकन केयर ऑफ, one argument could be made that they don't even know what's coming, you know, so they are at max neutral, if not happy they're also not sad, at max they're neutral considering they are in a decent environment, साफ सफाई होती है, टाइम पे खाना मिलता है, एक्सप्लॉइटेशन मतलब एक्सप्लॉइटेशन का क्या मतलब है कि दूध निकाल रहे हैं, ये सब के अलावा टॉर्चर नहीं होता है, ठीक है। उनको इंजेक्शन लगते हैं विटामिन और इन सारी चीज़ों के, उनके रूम्स वगैरह का ख्याल रखा जाता है, मतलब हवा हवा टेम्परेचर कंट्रोल ये सब अगर आप ऐसे करके रखोगे तो खुशी रहेगा ना, इनफैक्ट स्टेट ऑफ नेचर ज़्यादा खुश रहेगा इन दैट सेंस, दे आर मोर कंफर्टेबल देन द स्टेट ऑफ नेचर। नेचर में कुछ नहीं है, यू नो, नहीं होती भाई साफ सफाई। हैव बीन टू अ डेयरी फार्म, आई हैव बीन टू अ फ्यू डेयरी फार्म्स, एंड नहीं होती, ये भी बात सही है, बट मैं वही तो कह रहा हूँ ना, साफ सफाई नहीं होती वर्सेस इसको तुम एक वहाँ पर भी ना लोगे कि व्हाट इज बेटर, ये तो एक लैप्स हो गया ना। लैप्स क्या होता है? मान लो कि मैं तुमसे डिबेट कर रहा हूँ कि यार हॉस्पिटल होने चाहिए कि नहीं होने चाहिए, तो बोले हॉस्पिटल में इलाज कहाँ होता है और गरीब आदमी के साथ क्या ट्रीटमेंट होता है, ये तो खराबी है ना सिस्टम की। लेकिन हम बात क्या कर रहे हैं कि ये होना चाहिए नहीं होना चाहिए, तो खराबी को तो ठीक किया जा सकता है, और होना नहीं होना है उसमें तो दो साइड है, एक साइड बोल रहा है होना नहीं चाहिए, एक साइड बोल रहा है कि होना चाहिए, तो उस क्वालिटी ऑफ आर्गुमेंट पे रहो ना। लैप्सेस पे हम दोनों एग्री करके बोल सकते हैं कि ये तो इस पर तो काम करना चाहिए, बट दोनों एग्री करेंगे नहीं, क्यों? क्योंकि एक बंदा बोल रहा है ये होना नहीं चाहिए।
What's this guy just filibustering about? Like, well, firstly, I don't even know what the argument is supposed to be. Is he saying that it is okay for us to like kill animals because, like we provide them with shelter and stuff like that? I don't know if that's the argument. Um, because if that's the argument, then you can just like run name the trade on that and just be like, okay, like what if we do the same thing to like mentally disabled humans, for example? Um, yeah, I don't know what this guy's blabbering about.
समझ रहे हो? So complicated matter है।
While seeing that, I don't feel so it is hurting. Like,
We're seeing what?
Sir, by artificial insemination.
So that's not how businesses work. Animals are commodities. वो ज़्यादा पूछते हैं एक जगह में one profit. That is true. But there are a lot of places in this entire world जहाँ पे बहुत ethical तरीके से भी हार्वेस्टिंग करी जाती है नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज की। अगर तुम ये कह रहे हो कि भाई एनिमल्स की बहुत खराब हालत होती है मोस्टली, ट्रू, बट बहुत जगह सही भी होती है, तो मेरा क्वेश्चन बड़ा सिंपल है, क्या रेगुलेशन के थ्रू उसको बेटर नहीं करा जा सकता? क्योंकि ये तो सिर्फ ये सेम वही चीज़ है जो तुम्हारे स्कूल्स और हॉस्पिटल्स में होती है। भाई तुम्हें सिंपल बताता हूँ, तुम ना जब एक एनिमल फार्म को देखते हो, तुम देखते हो एक गाय को, मैं देखता हूँ गाय को जस्ट लाइक अ ह्यूमन, जो उस एनिमल फार्म में होता है ना दोस्त, वो तुम्हारी लाइफ में भी होता है, ठीक है। मुझे तुम्हें बताओ, जितने लोग दूध बेच रहे हैं, क्या गवर्नमेंट वहाँ पे रेगुलेट नहीं कर सकती कि वहाँ पे स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग क्या है काउस के लिए? इज इट रियली दैट हार्ड? बट गवर्नमेंट सारा तुम्हारा स्कूल रेगुलेट नहीं कर पा रही, खुद का स्कूल नहीं कर पा रही है, केंद्र विद्यालय, खुद की यूनिवर्सिटी नहीं कर पा रही, दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी, तो एक तबेला क्या रेगुलेट करेगी? तो उसमें गलती कहाँ है? किसकी गलती है इसमें? उस गाय की गलती है, उसके मालिक की गलती है, गवर्नमेंट की गलती है? गवर्नमेंट तो तुम बताओ कि तुम्हारी गलती है, हम सबकी गलती किसकी है? पॉइंट ये है कि इसका ये मतलब तो नहीं ना कि वो चीज़ खराब है, वो इंस्टीट्यूशन खराब है, इसका मतलब ये वो ढंग से चल नहीं रहा है। अगर वहाँ पे टॉर्चर होता है तो ये क्यों हो रहा है, और जो लोग टॉर्चर कर रहे हैं वो जेल में क्यों नहीं है? नकली मेरा टू के टाइम नकली मेरा भाई, दैट्स क्रेजी। मेरा पता है जो अल्टरनेटिव सेकंड अकाउंट है जो स्ट्रीम वाला होता है वो ऑलमोस्ट खाली पड़ा था, नकली मेरा भाई ने वापस से जिम्मा उठा लिया भरने का। थैंक यू मैन, मीन्स अ लॉट जेन्युइनली। मेरी एनर्जी थोड़ी सी लो है आज, मैं बीमारी से अभी निकला हूँ, यू नो, बट यू नो really means a lot. And I'm glad you showed up today, man. I didn't think you would be on the stream, because I announced it very late. But I was thinking of texting you. Been a long time. What are your views on arranged marriage where the wife had no say, if not she agrees to it, so she's taken care of by her laws, she's supposed to give birth again without her will? मैंने सेम बातें बोल रखी हैं कि पुरानी बहुत स्ट्रीम्स पे, पता नहीं कौन कौन सी है। एक ऐसा सेम इसमें तो उधर पे है, अभी इसने ये देखो इसी पे कहीं तो था, ये प्रोस्टिट्यूशन इज ये वाला क्लिप देखना, प्रोस्टिट्यूशन द न्यू अल्टरनेटिव टू मैरिज, ये देखना, हाँ वही देखना, मिल जाएगा। They're mostly correct, but even with all the regulations in place, they don't have the same level of freedom we enjoy. मैं वही तो कह रहा हूँ, अकेला भाई मैं कह रहा हूँ, मैं डेविल्स एडवोकेट प्ले कर रहा हूँ, क्योंकि अब ये बंदा तो अपने आर्गुमेंट बोल नहीं पाएगा, तो इसका फायदा ये उठा रहा है साइड, मतलब एक डिबेट की बात कर रहा हूँ मैं, दोनों तरफ अच्छी डिबेट होनी चाहिए ना। तो मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि इसके जो अरविंद एनिमल एक्टिविस्ट है उसके अगेंस्ट सबसे हाई क्वालिटी टीयर क्या हो सकता है? मैं एक अच्छा कंस्ट्रक्टिव एनवायरमेंट बना रहा हूँ, मैं ये नहीं कह रहा कि जो मैं कह रहा हूँ वो एकदम सत्य है, दूसरा साइड खराब है, वीगन मत बनो, ऐसा बिल्कुल नहीं है भाई। देखो अब अगर टू गो टू देयर साइड, व्हाट आई वुड से इज कि वन ऑफ द वर्स्ट सिंस अकॉर्डिंग टू मी पर्सनली is denying another entity the right to life. One of the worst, if not the worst sin ever, is to deny anything the right to life. That's my opinion. So it's self-explanatory, you know. But then again, इस पे भी डिबेट हो सकती है कि लाइफ क्या होता है, क्योंकि मरना तो दोनों सर्कमस्टांस में है. अगर वो गाय खुली घूम रही है, उसको शेर उसको खा लेगा तो दर्द होगा, जैसे हंसी खुशी तो मरेगी नहीं, यू नो. उसका गला फाड़ के खाएगा वो, आधी जिंदा तड़पते रहेगी, मक्खियाँ बैठेंगी उस पर, इवेंचुअली उसके सड़े हुए मांस पे एंड व्हाट नॉट, चील गिदड़ खा लेंगे, कोई बीमारी होगी उसको, वो अल्सर हो.
Yeah, again, this is getting boring because, like, I don't know what he's trying to say. Like, what's the argument supposed to be? Is it supposed to be that it's okay to kill animals because we take care of them? Then that's just like some low IQ kind of argument. Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna watch any more of this. This is like extremely boring. Yeah, there's another clip, but this guy seems like kind of brain dead. So yeah, I'm not really interested in continuing this. Sorry. Anyway. Yeah, I guess that should be enough for the stream. Like, I've said most of what I wanted to say, and if there's something else that I want to say, I will later, in another stream. But I guess until then, I'm gonna call it a day, and I'll see you on the next stream. In the next stream, I will probably talk about like animal testing and stuff like that, which is what I had. It's going to be either animal testing or stuff about protein and bioavailability and stuff like that. So that's the kind of stuff I'm gonna be streaming about in the next stream. So stay tuned, and if you enjoyed the stream, drop it a like, share it among normies, because the debate bros already know the stuff that I have talked about. Like, this is something that I've talked about quite a bit in the community. So share it with normies, drop a like, and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, I'll see you in the next stream. Until then, take care. Goodbye.